Yeah, true. Taxes suck. Who's first? Anybody got a question? Just raise your hand and they'll bring you the microphone.
Dana, obviously we saw some of your tweets about the main event. If you could just kind of expand a little bit on your thoughts on how things went down.
The fight sucked. I don't know how to expand on it anymore. I mean, it's one of those situations where I think that, you know, a guy like Guida, you know, his style is to move forward, and I think that's the style that's made him who he is, the style that's made him a fan favorite and won him fights. You know, he's a guy, is he the most talented, well-rounded mixed martial artist in the world? No. But his thing is he's got stamina for days, he's in your face, he stays on top of you, he wears his opponent down, and he takes him out. Or, you know, he goes out on his shield. I mean, that's been his thing. And, yeah, I just couldn't. You can't, first of all, I don't think that was a split decision at all. I thought Gray Maynard won that fight easily. I think that you can't, nobody can win or lose a fight when a guy is running around in circles. He was literally running. You know, I had some guys who are, you know, fans on Twitter and saying whatever, great footwork. This isn't fucking Dancing with the Stars. You know what I mean? You can't win a fight by running around in circles. It's not how fights are won. And Gray Maynard moved forward, pressed the action. Gray Maynard was literally running, full speed running, throwing punches. It's crazy. It reminded me of the Caleb Starnes fight.
Was it as bad as the Caleb Starnes fight, would you say?
Yeah, I think because this was the main event. I think it was worse.
And have you talked to Clay afterwards? I mean, were you able to say anything to him?
No.
Will you at some point?
I'm sure I will.
You gonna let us know what that might be?
That's between me and
tells enough right there. Okay.
I mean, what more could I say? I just said pretty much all of it publicly. You know, I'm not his trainer. I'm not his coach. You know, these guys come up with game plans or whatever the deal is. But to make a guy like Clay Guida go out and fight like that, that was a game plan? I don't know.
Can there be any ramifications as a result of it?
No, I mean, Clay Guida is a warrior. The guy has fought for us a zillion times. He's put on some of the best fights ever in UFC history. And tonight, he, you know, I don't know if he, you know, had a premonition that he should go out and fight like this, or he got some bad advice. But again, who am I? I'm not his trainer. I'm not his coach. Maybe this is the way he wants to fight for the rest of his career. I don't know. I wouldn't advise it, but I'm not his trainer.
With the featherweight division landscape and everything, Dana, right over here, with Lamas getting a big win and Swanson getting a big win, what's your overall thoughts on the division?
Yeah, Swanson looked awesome tonight. That was a great fight, great knockout. You know, there was earlier on in the night, Eves had made a call that people were questioning on. I think he made a great stop. He redeemed himself with a great stoppage in that fight. You know, when he went down, his arms were down. He was not able to protect himself, and I'm actually happy that Cub missed that first shot when he went down to the ground. It's a great stoppage. I thought he looked phenomenal tonight, and we'll see what happens. You know, I don't ever make, you know, this guy's going here and this guy's doing that. Me and Lorenzo and Joe get together and we figure out what's next. But really happy with both their performances. But Cub Swanson looked awesome tonight.
And Coke is still expected to face Aldo?
What's that?
And Eric Coke is still expected to face Aldo?
I don't know. I don't know. Now that Aldo's out, you know how that stuff works.
This is for Cub, over here, Cub. Yeah, you talked a little bit earlier this week about coming into your own and how California didn't have an amateur program. So, you know, you're 21 fights in, but the last 2 fights you looked fantastic. Do you really feel like you're hitting your stride now?
Oh yeah, definitely. Like I said, I didn't have an amateur career. My first few fights were in Tijuana, Mexico, pro, and so I kind of feel like I've grown over time, just more in the spotlight. So 28 now, feel like I'm really, you know, hitting my groove and really putting things together. And Greg's had a lot to do with that, building my confidence mentally and just letting me be free out there. So I feel good right now.
And then for Dana, as he just said, with the 145 division, starting to take shape a little bit more. Where does Cub fit in right now, do you think? Do we get a Swanson zombie shot, you think?
Yeah, we'll see what happens. I don't know. He looked great. I'm really impressed with his performance tonight, and Pearson's a guy who I have a lot of respect for. So it was a big win for him tonight. Not only did he win, he knocked him out. So really good win. We'll see what happens.
Question for Cub. You told me back in Chicago when you beat George Roop, you said you felt like you were finally to the point where you're putting things together right. What's the biggest difference between now and just a couple fights ago that you feel like maybe this is the time for you to kind of take over the featherweight division?
Well, I have a good jiu-jitsu background, and that's always been, my thing. And I've been boxing with, the world champion Tim Bradley for a while now, and that whole camp in India. And I feel like I'm well-rounded. Being at Greg Jackson's, I feel like I have the best team, the best trainers, and that I have the talent to do it. And I feel like everything's just coming together right now for me.
And a question for Ricardo. Ricardo, obviously this is a huge win for you tonight. Coming in, we knew all the stories about Hoke. You turning down the title fight and he got to fight with you. Can you just kind of give us your overall impressions of the fight? And did he do anything that surprised you? And I guess the biggest question is how excited were you with the win, especially with him being, in most people's estimation, the #2 featherweight?
I was very excited. A little disappointed I couldn't finish the fight. I was really trying hard too, but the guy's tough. I give my hats off to him. And going into the fight, I didn't really know what to expect because he's very unorthodox, and it's hard to train for a guy like that. Other than I wish I would have finished the fight. I'm pretty happy about my overall performance.
And last question for Dan Miller. Dan, you were obviously very excited at the end of that fight. Can you kind of talk to us about what that moment was like? You were really celebrating, really kind of soaking in the moment there. The crowd was behind you, obviously, the chants were in the crowd. What was that moment like for you?
Just pure excitement. It's been a long time. I had 2 losses in a row, and it's been a while since I won. So I was really excited to get the win, and especially in that kind of fashion.
Right here.
Dan, can you just speak to what you thought of the whole trilogy between Sam and Spencer?
Yeah, I loved it. These guys both come in. It was exactly like the other fights, and it's funny because I was saying, Stout had said in his pre-fight interview that when he fought Stout the other 2 times, he was green, and he felt like Fisher was in his prime then, and now he's in his prime, and Fisher is, shot. I thought Fisher looked better tonight than he has in a long time. I thought he fought a great fight, and they won fight of the night, so I think that says a lot.
And just to follow up, in the lead-up, it seemed that Spencer was kind of considering this to be his last fight. How do you want us to remember Spencer Fisher as a fighter?
To be honest with you, if the fight went the way that he said in his pre-fight interview, I would agree with him. I thought Spencer Fisher looked as good as he's ever looked tonight. So maybe he'll rethink that.
Thank you.
A question for Dana. In regards to the featherweight division, Hioki turned down the title fight with Aldo. Is it hurt him worse losing to Ricardo tonight than it would have him losing to Aldo?
No, what you guys gotta understand is that if a kid feels he's not ready for that title shot, if you lose the title shot, it takes a couple of years to get back there. And apparently he was right. He wasn't ready. He didn't win tonight, and it wasn't for the title. There's nothing wrong with a guy saying I'm not ready.
And how about Ricardo? Does that put him up closer to title contention?
Yeah, it was a great win for him. Definitely a big win.
And a question for Brian. 50 wins, not many people get to say that in MMA. Touch on that, and also how deep was that submission attempt by Wahlberg early in the fight?
Fighting this long, I feel pretty lucky to have the health and opportunity to keep playing the game that I enjoy. As far as the submission in the first round, I think it was a Darce or Revo. Not too tight. He had one karate, but he couldn't get to the other one. And I felt I had leverage to change the position when I wanted to. I forced him to do a gator roll, got to all 4s, and did what I wanted to do. So I'm just glad I was patient enough, but not too stupid and too patient to really let him sink that in.
I love watching this guy fight. He came out of nowhere and just always exciting and fun to watch.
I was always around, David.
I know. I didn't know it though.
Question for Sam Stout. Sam, your wrestling looked like it was really a big factor
in this fight. Just talk about that. I mean, landing those takedowns, and not only landing them, but in key spots in the fight.
My wrestling game is something I've been working on for a long time, and just kind of keeping, on the low profile. And I grew up as a kickboxer that, I was so conditioned to just defend takedowns and get back to my feet. But I felt this was the right time to, showcase that I'm a mixed martial artist. I can do it all, and I knew Spencer wouldn't be expecting it, and I knew it would give me the edge I needed to steal those rounds and get that win.
And one more for Dan Miller. Dan, it seemed like you had about 80 guillotine attempts out there. Just what did you see there? What did you feel that you knew if you kept going for it, you'd eventually be able to lock it in?
We watched the film on him, and coach said it's there. I knew eventually it was going to land, and especially after I heard him. So I just kept going for it, and, trying to finish the fight.
This question's for Dan Miller.
Dan, talk me through how your body responded to you when you were in the cage at the new weight.
It's hard to say. I was a little tired, but he came out hard and he fought hard. So I don't feel so bad. I actually felt walking into the ring like I was fighting back at 185 pounds. I didn't feel any different. So I don't think it's much of a change.
And how did the weight cut compare to previous weight cuts?
It was harder, obviously, because I pretty much was a fat kid at 185 pounds. I wasn't, I was small. Just I think 70s is a natural weight for me.
One more for Dana. Dana, what did you think of Dan's performance?
That looked great. That was a good fight too. That fight was up for fight of the night too. It was a great fight. He looked good. Pulled off submission against a tough guy.
Thank you.
Yep. Is there any more questions for me? Because I'm going to let somebody else stand up here and control this thing, and I'm going to Brazil. Go ahead, sir. What do you got?
It's been 7 years since you were in Atlantic City. Finally came back, a brand new property. Will we have to wait that long to see you again?
I hope not. One of the things that happened is, obviously, this commission was insightful and saw MMA before anybody else did, and saw the potential in it, and the fact that it should be legalized. And it was here. We came here. Trump gave us our first shot in Atlantic City, and this place has been good to us. Not only the times that we've been here previously, we've done Trump, we've done Boardwalk Hall, and now we've come here. This has always been a great market for us. The fans were always great, and yeah, the thing was, this was the first place to sanction it. Then we went out and got all the other states and all these other countries over the last 10 years. And yeah, we'll be back soon. This is a great venue here too. It's a great place to watch fights. Perfect amount of seats, and there's not a bad seat in the place. So yeah, we like it. We'll be back. Thank you. Any other for me? Good night, everybody.
Let's go to Brazil.
Question for Gray, right over here, Gray. Obviously, fight was not what a lot of people expected.
Yeah, tell me about it.
How frustrating was it, and how, I guess shocked knowing what kind of fighter Clay normally is? How shocked were you that he did what he did there?
It took me 2 rounds just to know, like, all right, I think this guy's going to do this the whole fight, and personally I don't act like that. It's a fight, but I was pissed off. I'm a human too. I get mad, so I'm here to work. Let's work.
Were you when the scores were read, you heard split decision? What's running through your mind?
It could go his way, Like there's people out there that think that's like good, hit, and it's not even moving. It's just like moving to the other end of the cage. A couple steps, I understand that. You're still in the pocket, you're still there, like able to hit me, but you gotta understand, it's a fight still. You can't just go to the end of the cage and then back to the other end and then back to the other end the whole time. You gotta give me a chance too.
Last question. I know it seemed like you and Clay had a few words on your way out of the cage, walking out at the same time. Can you kind of say what exactly happened? It looked like, did they have to separate? What actually happened there?
I don't know. He was mad. I was mad. And,
I don't even remember. I just got out of a fight, dude. I can't even remember where I put my key to my hotel room.
Gray, it looked like you were,
cool.
Gray, it looked like you were trying to implore him to. Gray, it looked like you were trying to implore him to fight during the fight.
Hell yeah. Yes.
What were you saying to this?
I was just like, come on, let's go, let's fight, hit me. I think there was a couple times I just dropped my hands and he teed off or something. Just whatever.
Question for Gray. Gray, over here.
Okay.
With the Shark Tank stacked lightweight division, obviously Benson and Frankie fighting in August, and Nate Diaz in line for the title shot. What's next for you? What's your feelings? Are you going to try to clamor for maybe to get Nate to fight you before he waits for the title, or you know, what do you think who you should fight next, or how quick should you fight again, in your opinion?
It's a good question. You know, of course, I'm trying to go for the belt again, and like I told you, you know, I think the Edgar fight, that's a good fight, part 4. You know, but the ultimate was the belt. That's all I want. You know, I come up short a couple times, and you know, I changed my whole life to try it again.
And now you've gotten the win after changing camps.
Yeah, I'd like to thank AKA, Lou Nyao, just all the guys. You know, it was awesome. Good camp.
And if you had lost tonight, would you have second guessed the move, or you're still comfortable with it?
No, I would have moved again. I was just joking. Now I would have got back in the gym, man, and trained harder. I mean, I'm not happy about this fight, but you know, I did all I could, you know, and just got to get back in the gym, do it again.
Question is for Dan Miller. Dan, down front, other side. You talked in the cage about the outpouring of support your family's received. Can you give an update about your son's condition?
He's doing well right now. We're still kind of waiting on, you know, whether to move forward with the transplant. You know, he has to be 100%, and so, you know, he's doing workup and stuff like that. It should be soon, but you never know. So, you know, hopefully next couple of months.
Why is everyone so quiet? That's the time. Go hit the boardwalk. It's a ball game. Let's go one more round. Let's do that too. Tonight he's young.
Ray, I've got a question for you over here, Ray. You know, with the division being the way it is stacked, so many guys competing to be the top guy, every win counts, and you got to win tonight. But because of the way the fight played out, you won, but it wasn't really an impressive. You didn't really go out there and look impressive. You didn't really have a chance to look impressive. Was that part of your frustration about it? Not, you know, you're going to get a win, but does this, you know, how does this move you up into position?
I don't know. You should ask. He was just here, the boss, Dana. You know.
Yeah, but what do you think about it? Was that part of the frustration?
It was a frustrating fight. I mean, you saw it in my face. I don't act like that, you know. But you know, I let my emotions came out that fight. I mean, it's not perfect, but you know, I thought I won, and that's that. You know, I move up. Whoever I got next, I'll be back in the gym, you know, this week. The ultimate goal is the belt, though. That's all I care about. You know, whoever gets me to the belt first.
Questions
or
for
next.
Greg. Well, questions for Greg. You came out to a lot of boos when you first came out, and then somewhere in the middle of the fight, a la Rocky IV, the crowd started cheering for you. Can you just talk about how it felt to come out to such a negative reaction, and then, if you noticed, how it felt to have the crowd switch?
I think it was maybe they booed at the Wiz Khalifa song, maybe? that was probably it. That's a Pittsburgh guy. So.
Or AC.
Or AC.
Eagles down.
That's it. They weren't booing me. Seriously, they weren't. I don't know, man. I don't pay attention to that stuff. I'm in the zone, and
it is what it is. I just try to fight.
Clay, you obviously heard some of Gray's, right here, man. Obviously heard some of Gray's thoughts right after the fight in the cage. Your boss has kind of expressed some disappointment in how the fight went. Can you just kind of take us through your take on the fight and kind of how things transpired in there once things got going?
I showed up a little bit late, so I didn't hear what the boss had to say. But yeah, I think a little bit more movement, and if I would have landed a few more strikes, I would have gotten the nod. We stuck to our game plan. We were unpredictable. He's a big, heavy puncher, man. The guy hits hard. Guy punches holes in walls, I'm sure, for practice, and I didn't want my head to be one of those, you know. I thought we stuck to our game plan. We kept him guessing. We were in and out. He was swinging for the fences. We weren't there. He landed 3 or 4. Caught me in the cheek one time. I thought we landed enough head kicks. I'm no mathematician, but 4 or 5 probably. I'm no kickboxer. I thought we landed some good jabs. The first punch I landed on him cut his nose. My face looks a little worse than his does, but yeah, maybe he landed a few more strikes and maybe a little bit more movement. I think I stopped all of his takedowns. I think I felt good about, you know, my performance.
And as you said, you stuck to the game plan. I mean, you told us about that. On Wednesday, your plan was to not be there when he threw his heaviest shots. Kind of take us through then what's the difference. I mean, you heard how the crowd reacted and kind of turned in the 3rd round or so. Take us through what the difference is between, from a fan's point of view, of running, so to speak, and kind of being on your bicycle and constantly backing up, and sticking to your game plan, as you said, and just not being there for his shots.
I think sometimes judges get the misconception about what mixed martial arts really is. I think mixed martial arts is the guy who gets hit the least usually is the victor. The guy who's on, you know, is moving the whole time. I can't wait to see the fight metrics or whatever it is and see the strikes that I landed, you know, against the strikes that were thrown. So 5 rounds of fun. I know Gray had a good time out there. In the 3rd round, I saw a little frustration in his face. That was the plan. And our plan was to kind of get in on more singles and doubles, wear him down more, and just not sit in the pocket with him. You know, even when we did, we landed some good uppercuts, some good hooks, a couple of straights. I felt confident in my combinations, but the dude hits like a Mack truck, man. So I didn't want to be there for too much of it. A couple of times he whiffed and almost ran into the fence. So I felt good about it. We'll get him next time.
Gray, question for you. You know, we talked the other day, Gray right here talked the other day about, you know, a 5-round fight, the dynamics of that for you, and it turned out that worked in your favor. You needed 2 rounds, like you said before, to kind of figure him out, and those last 3 rounds were the one you took. Just talk about that. The 5 rounds on paper looked like they were in Clay's favor, and ended up being, you know, what you needed to take the fight.
Yeah, that dude's got cardio for sure. I trained hard for it. 5 rounds aren't that fun to train for. I mean, they're fun to fight, but you know, 12 weeks, it's always like, ooh, 5 rounds. No belt at the end, but it's all good. You know, I mean, he's a tough kid, and yeah, he goes, and I mean, it pushed me the whole camp to know that, you know, it's going to be a longer fight, and it's going to be at a high pace. You know, and I had to prove I could do it, because last fight, you know, I kind of gassed a little bit. There was all kinds of stuff going on, and you know, so trained hard for it. I was prepared for him, and it is what it is.
Chuck. Question for Clay over here. You're known as like a fan favorite. What was it like for you to hear the crowd sort of? Did you notice the crowd turning on you kind of in the late rounds, and what was that like for you?
Motivates me even more. My hat's off to Gray. He's an athlete and a wrestler I've always looked up to. He's done things in the sport, in mixed martial arts, and he's done things in wrestling that I wasn't able to do. 3-time All-American.
Damn, man, he's making me feel bad about all the stuff I did.
I've looked up to you for a long time, Gray. I got nothing.
He's got the floor.
Take it easy, Dad. I got nothing but respect for you and your family and your old man, man. You guys are awesome people. You guys come from a great camp and a great wrestling background. And it was a challenge to myself to say, you know, man, I want to finally go out and beat the best wrestler I faced. I lost to Ben Henderson, who was a NAIA, whatever you want to call it. You know, you were a step up in competition for me. You know, 3-time All-American, man, Division I. And my hat's off to you. You know, I'm so super excited about the challenge, about the opportunity that lied ahead. And yeah, what were we talking about? What was the question, man? Oh, the fans. Yeah, the Goombas in the crowd. Yeah, one of the jerseys showed. So I think they have a misconception about what mixed martial arts is. Yeah, it motivates me even more than anything, man. The boos motivated me, and I was just getting into my groove. 3 rounds as a warm-up, 5 rounds, man. I was still bouncing around and ready to go. And my hat's off to Gray again for him being prepared for 5 rounds. He looked great in there. And we'll get in there and dance again.
Just one more for you. If you'd have known that that was going to be the outcome, that people were going to sort of turn on you, would you have stuck to your game plan, or would you have abandoned that, you know?
Oh, stuck with your game plan. The game plan that they're used to me doing, going and playing Rock'em Sock'em Robots and get my head kicked off, or get punched in the face, or stick to a smart strategy and don't be there for big punches. I like my game plan that Coach Wink and Greg and Izzy Style came up with.
Quick question for Clay. After the fight, you took exception to something. You went and talked to Gray about it. Then, as you were walking by the media, you mouthed weak. What was the thing that bugged you there?
Yeah, I was heated at the time. Next question.
Yeah, again, nothing personal on all that stuff. It was a heated fight.
Yeah, it's all good, man. My apologies.
Like, we were talking about the stuff, Mac and me. Yeah, the night before, I was like, man, I can't. It's gonna be good to get it over with because he's a nice guy, man. He is, you know, and it's not personal. It's just, you know, it was a fight, and got heated, and you know, he's a cool guy. I'm glad we can just drop it at that. You know, if we meet again, it happens. If not, oh well.
Question for Clay.
I try not to act like that. Sorry.
When things did get emotional, or start to get emotional in that round, where he flipped you off, you had an exchange, you hit him with a couple punches, then you shot in for a takedown. Did that takedown, was that instinct? Didn't seem like it was in the game plan to get into, you know, to try to take it to the ground. You almost got submitted. That part of the fight, do you regret? Because it seemed to swing that round over for Gray.
Gray's probably been in Joe Stevenson's guillotine once or twice. I've been in Joe Stevenson's guillotine a couple times. Gray's got a tight guillotine, but I wasn't almost being submitted. I was taking my time in there. But no, the game plan was to try to, you know, shoot singles, shoot doubles, wear him down. The guy that shoot on is like shooting into a brick wall, man. He's got very good takedown defense. I needed to get to the wrestling a little bit more, but it turned out, you know, sometimes you get two wrestlers in there and it ends up being a stand-up fight. So that's kind of, you know, how it played out.
And early in the week, when I spoke to you, you talked about that you were so driven for this fight. How big of a letdown is this that you've lost two in a row to 2 top contenders? If you could touch on that for me.
It just shows me how close I am to getting to my dream, to my goal, and that's being the lightweight champion. You know, Gray wants that belt, Frankie wants that belt, I want that belt. I think the 4 of us are going to be up at the top here for a long time, man. So it's motivating to me, it's encouraging, but at the same time, it's you know, I'll bounce back. I always do, man.
Question for Clay. You mentioned earlier that you would like to see the fight metric numbers. You said that you thought you landed more strikes than them. I have them in front of me, actually. Yeah, they actually have Gray landing slightly more significant strikes and slightly more total strikes. Okay. What's your response to that? Does that at all color your perception of the fight?
Like I said in my first answer, I probably should have landed some more strikes.
All right, I got a question for Ricardo, actually. Can you take us through those guillotine attempts, please, and kind of how those factored in the fight? Was that encouraging or discouraging? And yeah, I'd just love to hear your take on that.
It wasn't encouraging or discouraging. I just I was a little mad at myself for even being taken down by him, but I was trying to attack off my back as much as I could, so and stay active. And my hat's off to him, because I don't know how he was breathing. I mean, he held his breath for a long time. At first, I was really trying to over squeeze a little too much on those first couple of guillotines, and then I was listening to my corner a little more. They told me not to go crazy and kind of keep the position, and little by little. So that last Harmon guillotine I had was tight, and he wasn't breathing, but he's a warrior, and he just didn't want to give up. So my hat's off to him.
This question's for Greg. Over here. 2011 was a pretty crazy year for you, and you made a lot of changes. Like you said, changed your entire life. You got 2012 off to a good start. You got a win, and back in the win columns. How's that feel right now?
Oh, it feels good. And again, he's a tough kid. Yeah, it's a hard win. I was a long camp too, and feels good. To get a win. Just got to get back in the gym, evolve more, learn more. There's a lot to improve on, but the ultimate goal is that help.
And then my question for Brian. Brian, you're making waves through the division, and you're proving to be a tough matchup for anybody. I heard talk that you're dropping down to 55. Is that true?
Yeah, I'm sick of being a giant killer. I fought at heavyweight, light heavyweight, middleweight. At one point in 2008, 2009, I used to wake up at about 171 pounds. So if I can stick with the vegan and vegetarian diet, I'm on a pretty good stretch for about 3 months right now. So if I can go the next 3 or 4 months and get my flow, my metabolism is really going to shrink me down. And I should be waking up in the 70s. So if that starts to happen, yeah, I'm going to make a very concerted effort to become a lightweight.
I'm going to flyweight if that's the case.
I wouldn't fight you, Clay. Illinois, brother, I wouldn't fight you.
I can run fast.
Heard the rumor.
You guys saw it tonight.
All right, this question is for Ricardo. This is obviously the biggest winning career. Just talk us through, has it settled in right now?
Yeah, I think so, a little bit. I'm sure it'll settle in a little more. It was a huge win. I'm really happy with the outcome. Not much to say, man. I'm just happy. I'm happy to be here. I love being in the UFC. It's nothing else I want to do.
This one's for Sam. Sam, this is obviously the end of a great trilogy, and a lot of your career has been defined by your fights with Spencer Fisher. Now that's over, what's your, looking back, what's your thoughts on him as an opponent, him as, I guess, a friend in arms?
Yeah, we spent 45 minutes in that cage together. We, that we got a bond together that, is a pretty rare thing, that, to go through a trilogy like that and have 3 wars with the same opponent. My hats are off to him. He's a class act. We spoke after the fight. If I get out of this press conference before while they're still selling drinks, I'm gonna go buy him a beer.
My question is also for Sam. Can you just talk a bit about having Mark Delagrati in your corner tonight, and also just how you felt mentally as compared to the Tavares fight back in January?
As most of you guys know, my coach and mentor and brother-in-law and one of my best friends, Sean Tompkins, died last August. So, he was in my corner for every single fight up until the Tavares fight. And I'm talking back to my amateur kickboxing days, every single fight I've ever had. He trained me from the ground up. So it's been very difficult for me to train or to fight without him. Fight with Tavares, I'm not making excuses as to, and saying that's why I lost. He won that fight fair and square, but I needed to find somebody else who could, I needed to start. I don't want to say fill his shoes, because nobody could fill Sean Tompkins' shoes to me, but I needed somebody that was putting a game plan together for me and reminding me and keeping me on track. Somebody I could feel confident with in my corner. And Mark Delagrati, I've always had a good relationship with him. We've always been friends, and him and Sean were very close. And I know that's who Sean would want in my corner. So I reached out to him, and you know, I'm really glad our game plan worked out really well for us tonight.
Thanks.
Thank you.
Take two more, guys.
This question is for Cub Swanson. There was a little bit of talk about the match against Pearson being stopped early. Can you give us your thoughts on that? Do you think that he was out completely?
He looked like he felt pretty weird against the cage. So, I mean, even if they didn't pull me off, I was going to make sure he didn't get back up. I knew the punch dazed him pretty good, so I thought it was a good stoppage.
Question for Clay. Clay, you talked a lot about you know, the work you've done with Greg Jackson and Coach Winklejohn, and you talked about the rock'em sock'em robot style you had. I mean, do you feel like following that game plan is a big part of the changes you've made? And I mean, are you happy with the fact that you're sticking to that game plan? Because I know in the past, even when you've had that, you've kind of fallen away from it when you get into those type fights.
Yeah, it was hard for me not to just stay in the pocket with when Gray was swinging those big punches, and I started throwing a couple, but then he quickly reminded me when he socked me in the face and in the jaw and the cheek a couple of times that I realized I got to get the heck out of there. But yeah, I mean, being under the watchful eye of those guys, you know, they're just masters of strategy. You know, it's a science to them. It may not be the most exciting, but I tell you what, man, I thought that was a pretty exciting 25-minute fight. Those guys put together very good game plans. Israel Martinez wrestling is you know, second to none, and I felt that my wrestling is improving, and that's what the downfall was in the Benson Henderson fight. You know, I wasn't able to get it to the ground. I wasn't as desperate in this fight for a takedown. You know, I thought my defense was pretty good up against the fence, out in the middle of the cage. But they come up with good game plans. We try to stick to it, and you know, I guess the rest is up to the judges.
Dave, anything?
Thanks, David. Guys, we'll say thanks to the Atlantic City media here today. Atlantic City's always been a fight town. I think the guys here are joking because I'm from here, and I know that. So I want to thank everybody. The official attendance number for the guys on deadline, that is 4,652. That is a sellout, 4,652. I'm going to go catch a Southwest flight to Brazil. So.